It was 70 days ago that the legislature sent the governor a balanced budget that increased, let me repeat myself, increased basic education funding by $100 million. Governor Wolf vetoed that $100 million and more than $3 billion in education funding on December 29th in part of a list of line item vetoes designed to stave off the emergency, but keep the pressure on lawmakers to pass his massive tax hikes. While withholding the money from schools, the governor has managed to spend money elsewhere, nearly $13 billion since those December vetoes and more than $37 billion since last July, all of this without an enacted budget and without the authority to spend money. He's choosing to spend taxpayer dollars, but withholding it from schools. That is unacceptable. This demands two responses. First, I urge the passage of Representative Santora's legislation, House Bill 1821, which he will speak about shortly, restoring more than $3 billion vetoed by Governor Wolf. This money has been collected from taxpayers. It's been appropriated by the legislator. The consequences of continuing to play games with these funds are real and are dire. In addition, we need the Auditor General to look into how the governor has managed to spend so much money without being appropriated by the legislature. An audit will reveal the winners and the losers of the governor's gambit and whether he is exceeding his constitutional authority. The fear is that Governor Wolf is setting a precedent that future governors can use to circumvent constitutional checks and balances and ignore the will of the people. I appreciate Superintendent Dunlap reaching out to us this afternoon and explaining the dire need to get these funds to not only the Upper Darby School District, but to all the school districts that will be facing the same problems in the very near future. Thank you. I'd like to now turn it over to Representative Santora.
Thank you, Senator McGarrigle. Again, I'd like to thank all of you for joining Senator McGarrigle and myself here today. And we have great concerns about this current situation. The money is sitting in Harrisburg. It's sitting there ready to be distributed. Given the legislatures from both sides of the aisle in the House and the Senate, as well as the governor, want to dedicate record funding levels. I'm one of those people that worked across the aisle and with the governor to try to raise the basic ed funding to $350 million. And I'm also one of the people that realize you come to a point in time where you can't always get what you want. And there is $100 million in increased funding in that basic ed line item in the House bill that was passed and partially signed by the governor on December 29th. We're at a point now where we are starting to hear from schools, as you heard Senator McGarrigle say, that come July for Upper Darby, they're in a crisis mode. But this is a crisis that can be averted very quickly. House Bill 1821 is my bill that restores the $3 billion. Would I work to put a little more in there? Absolutely I would. But at a minimum, we need that $3 billion put back. These schools rely on that money, and we're not talking chump change at a $100 million increase. We need to move forward. We've got to get the $3 billion out to the schools. And the way we do that is we get support, bipartisan support, for House Bill 1821. And we get those kids the money they need so that they can continue their education. There are other districts across this Commonwealth that are in much greater need than our own districts. Although our next door neighbors, William Penn, and I only represent a sliver of William Penn, but it still concerns me, had to go and borrow money to stay open through June. And then again, they're going to have to borrow money to stay open through the summer. School districts don't just shut down. They've got to pay their teachers. They've got to pay their administrators. We need to get this done. We've got to get it done now. House Bill 1821 is that avenue. And I ask that the governor join us in bipartisan support in order to make that happen. Closing school districts is not the answer. Sending out political rhetoric that says how to close your school district down in 60 days is not the answer. The answer is getting the full funding and getting it now. And if we can get more funding, I am going to be the first one to stand in line and try to help get that done. But in the meantime, we're going to make sure that these kids get to stay in school. Thank you. If you have any questions for myself or the senator, we'd be happy to answer them. My bill has been introduced. It's in Education Committee now, and I'm hoping that it'll be heard in the next week or two.
Let me play devil's advocate for you guys for a second. And I made it clear to you, I don't spend that much time in Pennsylvania. But with this going on for months as it has been, what would you say to people who say basically a pox on all your heads? Get in a room somewhere and just knock your heads together and settle this damn thing. What would you say to them?
Well, I think that I know, speaking on the Senate, I know they've tried to do that. There's been deals struck with the governor that he has not come through with the word that he's given, and he's not willing to bend on a lot of issues that are very important to the Senate, which is pension reform. And until we get pension reform, which is a big problem for school districts because of the huge pension liabilities that they have, that we're willing to give him something, but he needs to give us something. And the House, I think, has their own issues with that, the deals that they were striking with him. So I mean, they've been. You want to speak on that?
You kept hearing about the framework budget. The framework budget deal was actually a deal. It was 4 different items it was property tax reform in the very beginning, and that got blown away. So right there, that just killed me, because property tax reform is one of my biggest concerns in the Commonwealth, especially here locally. Number 2 was liquor privatization. If you agree with it or don't agree with it, it was part of a deal. Third, pension reform. If you agree with the deal that was there or not, again, it was part of a deal. And going blank on the 4th position, but those were the key triggers, and all 3 of those things were dead. Oh, the third was the tax increase. So the only piece that was left at the end of the day was the revenue increase, and unfortunately, we got to a point, and we did work it, but it died when the rest of it died.
So if this doesn't work, if your bill does not succeed, could we go into like the next fiscal year and solve this problem? And if so, then how do you fix it? Do you go to the courts? What do you do?
Because there is, the governor chose to blue line or use his line item veto, there is a budget in Pennsylvania. Okay, so we're beyond that. We need to now go and restore those funds.
Is there a reason why there's no push to stay in budget? Because you guys seem to be taking your regular breaks, even though there's no budget still. So why is there no push to stay in budget?
I don't think there's been any pressure on the governor to sit down and talk about a budget.
Shouldn't House leaders and Senate leaders go into session?
Well, we still have our regular sessions. We've been up there, and we've spent time, different times up there where nothing's getting done. So there's no sense having us up there to cost the taxpayers money to have us there if people can't agree when they get in a room to agree on something.
Every day that we're in session, it costs the taxpayers an additional $30,000 a day, and that it's just not necessary. When the leaders, we are elected by the people, then we elect our leaders to go negotiate on those types of things. They come back to the rank and file, and they bring back the details of a deal, and then we caucus that and decide if that's something we can move forward on. And don't think because we're down here doing our constituent work, and we're up there going to the budget hearings and everything else, that we're not in constant contact with our leaders. If I don't talk to the leader's office 3 times a week, I'd be shocked.
Okay, thank you.
That's it.
Thank you.